Our topic today is sleep. And if you are wide awake at night, if you have a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep, or you're just looking to maximize your sleep, then you are in the perfect place because that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we get started, a little bit about me. My name is Dr. Angie Elliott. For those that don't know me, I am a chiropractor. My office is in White Bear Lake. And I got into functional medicine about 5 years ago through my own journey in health, and I'll share that in a little bit. And I specialize in kind of women and children's care, both chiropractically as well as through my functional medicine services. Our disclaimer I'm going to share today that everything I share with you today is for educational purposes only. This is not a doctor-patient relationship, so please consult your trusted medical professional for any medical advice. Today we're going to cover some root causes of poor sleep, and then we're going to make your sleep reset plan. So as I mentioned before, I would love it if you would grab a pen, a piece of paper, and start writing things down. I'm going to ask you with each root cause to write down one thing, big or small, that you can start to implement in your sleep reset plan. And throughout the root causes, we're going to pull those out and we're going to put them into your sleep reset plan at the end. So I'll be asking for some participation through the chat, but my hope is that you leave here with tools that you can actually start implementing right away to get you started and get you sleeping. So if anybody attended last week's webinar on hormones, would you just type in the chat me? I would love to know who was here last week that's returning this week. And I'm just curious. So let me see how I can see my chat. There we go. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Thanks for joining me again. Move that chat over. All right. So we're talking about sleep. Let's dive in. There we go. So a little bit about me, and I shared this with last week with you guys, but to share for those that are new, is I'm here today because I was once in the shoes that many of you might be in right now. I was in a space and phase of life where I was exhausted. My brain fog was terrible. I had very low energy. I wasn't sleeping well, and I was really stressed. And I just didn't feel like myself, even though I was eating gluten-free, dairy-free. I was eating a paleo diet and was pretty strict with it. I was exercising. I was doing at that time what I thought were all the right things to do. But unfortunately, I was not feeling well. And so I finally sought out a functional medicine provider for myself. And it was incredibly eye-opening to run some labs, figure out what the root causes of my hormonal issues were, and then start to dive into them. Because little did I know, through stress and through a paleo diet with some poorer choices, I was eating too many starches, too many paleo desserts, apparently. I had worked myself into almost a pre-diabetic state. My blood sugars were on a roller coaster, and I had no idea because I thought healthy eating equates to healthy blood sugars. But I definitely learned a lot on that journey. And through what I learned, that has brought me to be here today. So I can share with you what I've learned along my way in healing my own health, but also a lot of the women that I work with. So let's keep going. All right, throughout my journey, through my own health journey and helping clients, I have created something I call my REACH signature system. This is an acronym that I walk people through. And today we're going to be covering the E, established foundation. So we're going to talk about lifestyle tips. And this whole presentation and all our presentations are very heavy in lifestyle tips because that is where we often find the success. We might have to use supplements and things if we're working one-on-one together, but the lifestyle tips are what really get us success and help us sustain it. Many of the lifestyle tips that we're going to share are tips that I am sharing with my one-on-one clients. And so please feel free to really write these down, take these in, and start putting them into action. We're going to talk about the A, addressing the root. A big piece, the fundamental piece of functional medicine is finding the root cause. And you hear a lot of that out there. But what we do is we start digging deeper. We look at symptoms and then we dig deeper into what's causing them. And there's often very common root causes to different symptoms. So we're going to dive into 7 of those common root causes today. And my hope for you today, for all of my clients that I work with, is that we learn, we connect, we heal, and we thrive, so you can reach the best version of you. All right, so why does this all matter? Sleep isn't necessarily the most sexy thing to talk about, but to be blunt with you, you can't feel healthy, you can't be healthy, you can't feel well if you're not sleeping well. It's incredibly important. There isn't a lotion, potion, pill, supplement, anything out there that can give you the same benefit that a good night's sleep can give you. Your body heals and repairs while you sleep. Your brain detoxifies and it cleans up debris and old cells while you sleep. So we really need that sleep. So that's why we're here today, is to really dive into some root causes and get to work on formulating that sleep plan. So let's get going. Now, when we're talking about sleep and understanding sleep disruptors, we are going to talk about how sleep quality and quantity both matter. But if we're going to have to sacrifice one, we want to sacrifice the sleep quantity. Quality is where we need to get that deep sleep and that REM sleep in. The deep sleep that you get is that deep sleep where someone might tell you, gosh, you didn't even move at night. That's often the deep sleep phase. And the REM sleep is where you will be dreaming. For an average adult, we need about 2 hours of each of those at night. Now, our deep sleep often happens before the 1 o'clock hour. So one important step is looking at what time do you go to sleep? Because if we're going to bed at midnight and our deep sleep on average happens before 1, we've only got a 1-hour window. And that we have to take some time to fall asleep as well. So that might shorten that window to 45 minutes. And so now we aren't giving our body enough time to even accomplish that deep sleep. So one tip when it comes to quality of sleep is, can you get to bed earlier? For my night owls, can you move your bedtime up in 15-minute increments? If you go to bed at midnight, tomorrow or tonight, move it to 11:45. Then move it to 11:30 the next night and give it a few times and then move it up. It's really important to get that early sleep in to get the deep sleep in. Some other options when it comes to sleep quality are tracking devices. I wear an Oura Ring and it tracks my sleep, and I can see when I get my deep sleep. It tells me how much deep sleep I got. I was actually looking at it just a little bit ago. And last night, my deep sleep was awesome. My REM sleep, not so great, because my little boy woke me up in the middle of the night. And so I can see what my quality is like, and that helps me figure out any patterns that are going on, and how I can maximize where I might be deficient. So if you're not waking up in the morning feeling really recharged, and yet you got 8 hours of sleep, then we need to look at quality of sleep. And sleep trackers are really, really helpful. So we're going to dive into a common stress cycle of stress, blood sugar crashes, hormone imbalances, creating poor sleep, which then leads to more fatigue, which unfortunately becomes this negative feedback loop where they keep feeding into each other and keep creating more and more poor sleep. And then if you were with me last week, we're going to talk about the nerve system's role in all of it, because throughout our whole webinar series, the nerve system is the foundational piece. It is the master operating system that your entire body is working off of. And so we need that system to be as healthy as possible so we can be as healthy as possible. If our nerve system is in a parasympathetic state, we are going to have already a much better option of getting really good deep sleep and REM sleep. If we're in a nerve system state of fight, flight, or freeze, now, if we're sleeping, it's going to be really light to sleep. So if you're someone that says, I'm a really light sleeper, I wake up to every single noise, I wake up super tired. That might be that you're in that state of fight or flight throughout the night or when you're going to bed. And while you're sleeping, your quality isn't very good. So now we need to work on the nervous system and your stress response. So we'll be diving into some more tips about that really soon. So when it comes to root causes, again, we start in the nerve system. You can see how we've got the brain at the top, and then those roots coming down are kind of like the spinal cord and the spinal nerves that go out to all the different organ systems. When we start with the nerve system, it's a much more efficient and strong way to work. So we're going to cover some tips for nerve system support as we come up. But let's first start with dehydration. And dehydration might surprise some of you. It might not be what you were expecting, but it's what I call low-hanging fruit. It's something that's often relatively easy in context of other things to correct. And it is a root cause of a lot of fatigue and low energy for people. We're going to talk about this next week too, when we are talking about energy. But even mild dehydration can increase cortisol, that stress hormone. And when cortisol goes up, melatonin goes down. So they'll be inversely related, cortisol up, melatonin down, making it hard to fall asleep. And dehydration, while it disrupts melatonin production, it is going to lead to that poor sleep quality. If you're sleeping, it's often going to be that light sleep, and it'll be, again, hard to get that deep and REM sleep. So one quick fix to share with you that is my favorite is obviously we need to drink more water. Ideally, it's filtered water, and the kind of gold standard is half your body weight in ounces of water a day. In the winter time, I often hear people go, but it's so hard to get it in the winter. And one tip that's super easy is what if you drink warm water? When it's cold outside, sometimes we crave warm, comforting things, foods and drinks. So what if you drink warm or hot water instead of cold or ice cold water? We just change the temperature. Another thing is putting electrolytes in your water. Again, you might know I'm a big fan of efficiency, and electrolytes in your water can help you get more hydration in less. I have electrolytes in my water right now, and I often start my day with some electrolytes, and then I often switch to a different one sometimes in the afternoon, so I can hydrate my brain first thing in the morning and before I have my cup of coffee or anything else. So being properly hydrated and getting some electrolyte help in to get you hydrated faster can really help you have more energy and sleep a lot better. So does anybody here with me today, do you already use electrolytes or have you heard of them? If you use them, just type me in the chat. If you have any you like, feel free to share those as well. Some of my favorite brands are Element, LMNT. In the morning, I put unflavored Element in my water, and then I put a little bit of magnesium powder in. So I just get more in my cup, and it's just this beautiful little hug in a cup. So great. I see some people do. I love it. Some other good brands are Redmond's, Electrolyte Synergy is one I use often off of our Fullscript account. Just Ingredients I've heard is really good. I have not personally used it, but I've heard really good things about it. So awesome. We'll dive into this topic more next week because this has a lot to do with energy as well. Good. Next stop is blood sugar imbalance. Blood sugar imbalances are a cornerstone to sleep. If I have someone that comes to me and says, I fall asleep okay, but I wake up every night between 2 and 4 in the morning, and sometimes I fall back to sleep easily, and sometimes I really struggle. This is often due to blood sugar spikes that are going on at night. And those blood sugar spikes can be coming from 2 different places. They can come from the food you were eating during the day, and they can come from stress and cortisol spikes. So those nighttime sugar dips or spikes will actually release a cortisol spike with it. So when sugar goes up, or if it drops too low, either one, when it's out of its nice comfy range, it will set off an alert signal in your brain, and your brain, your nerve system, is going to send off the alert signal to your pancreas, to your adrenals, and go, all right, guys, pump up the cortisol. We've got to fix this. And now cortisol spikes and you wake up. So The most common time, again, to wake up due to blood sugar imbalances and cortisol surges is between 2 and 4. According to Chinese medicine, this is the liver hour, and the liver has a lot to do with our blood sugars. Join me next week, and we're going to dive into why that is quite a bit more. So some tips around stabilizing blood sugar. From when it's coming from food, it's important to prioritize healthy fats in the forms of olive oil, avocado, olives, fiber, so vegetables, and some fruits, the lower sugar fruits, berries, things like that, and then protein from meat and animal sources of protein. Those will help slow the release of the carbohydrates and the sugars that you eat, so it doesn't shoot your blood sugars up really fast. If you're needing more carbohydrates in your meals, choosing things that, again, that are not refined carbohydrates, they're not white maybe, they're not white flour based or white sugar based. Maybe it's a whole grain bread if you can tolerate gluten, or a sourdough bread. Maybe it's a potato, but with the potato, sweet potato, white potato, always pair it with a protein and a different fiber. So a broccoli, some cruciferous vegetables are really great, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, and that's going to help slow the release of that starch from the potato. So we get a nice slow rise versus a mountain peak that goes straight up. So, if you are someone who loves to have dessert with your meal, maybe especially your evening meal, put that dessert with your meal and not separate from it. When we separate it, we don't have any buffer for that sugar. And when we eat it on a relatively empty stomach, again, that blood sugar is going to spike straight up and then it's going to come down. That can give you a harder time falling asleep. And then that can be the reason you're waking up between that 2 to 4 a.m. hour. Now, this also means if we're moving dessert into our evening meal, we're also going to try to remove any snacking after our meal. So the ideal scenario is I eat my dinner. It's full of protein, healthy fats, and fibers. I feel full, I feel satiated, and I'm not hungry, and I can go to bed 2 to 3 hours later. And I can go to bed and feel good about that. So we want to prioritize that meal so we can not have to snack after that. When we're snacking, it is rarely going to be maybe something healthy for us. But if we have to snack, then we want to choose maybe some leftover chicken. Maybe we choose some Brazil nuts for some healthy fats, or some leftover vegetables from your meal. If you have to snack, if you can't tie yourself over after dinner, then we want to be really mindful of what we are eating, basically. So next week, we're going to dive into this a lot, because blood sugar management has a lot to do with your energy and sustained energy throughout the whole day, instead of those kind of post-meal dips that a lot of people will get. So I would love it if you would, again, take out your pad of paper and write down one thing that you are ready to do or add to your sleep plan when it comes to blood sugar regulation. So, and if you didn't add one for hydration, please add one for hydration. Are you going to add water, add electrolytes? What works for you? And if anyone wants to share in the chat, please feel free. I would love to hear it. All right, and just a thumbs up when you are ready to move on. You've got your one thing written down for each of them. All right, thumbs up. Are we ready to move on? Excellent. Perfect. All right, next one is nutrient deficiencies. It's really important that our body has the building blocks it needs to make the hormones that we need. Iron deficiency can lead to symptoms such as restless legs and fatigue and fragmented sleep. It's very common and very often overlooked. Vitamin B12 deficiency can lower energy production and affect our melatonin regulation, which then disrupts our sleep. Magnesium, many people have heard about magnesium and its calming effect. And it's an important mineral that leads to a calming response of the mind and the muscles. And research has shared with us that it's actually almost impossible to get enough magnesium out of our food alone. This is often due to poor soil content, our growing practices, how far our vegetables and our produce is being shipped to us. So magnesium is one of my staple foundational supplements that I recommend to everybody. And it's important for calming and not just sleep. So magnesium glycinate is one of my favorites when we need a calming effect for the muscles. And a magnesium threonate is especially helpful if we've got our brain that is going, and we need to calm it down. So we have a question. Do you suggest taking magnesium morning or evening? Great question. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you need, so magnesium glycinate targets more muscles, and threonate targets more of the brain. So if you are having a high stress time, your brain's going throughout the day, I like magnesium threonate throughout the day. So we can help supply the brain with some extra nutrients to do that work, but then recover from those episodes of mental stress and the mental stress load of the day. Sometimes you can take magnesium threonate all day long. You can take it morning and evening. I just really love it. Magnesium glycinate, again, we're targeting muscles. So when do we want our muscles to feel more calm? Most of the time, magnesium glycinate is often better in the afternoon or evening. When we've used our muscles, we've depleted the magnesium, they need more support. We've maybe done a workout, we've been more physical, and we want to replenish so those muscles can recover before the next day. So the most common place to use magnesium glycinate is at night. That can really help with restless legs, with that feeling as well. Magnesium as a mineral is often taken best with a little bit of food in the stomach. One of my favorite brands is from Zymogen, and it's called Aptamag Neuro, I believe. And Alicia, could you pop our Fullscript link? So a lot of the supplements that I use are not prescription grade, physician grade. And so you can't buy them at Cub or Fresh Thyme or Target. They are third-party tested, they're very clean, they're very safe to use, and they're very comparable in price. So there is a link to our Fullscript account if there is something that you are wanting to look into. So but hopefully that answered your question, Jackie. I personally take magnesium threonate morning and evening. My brain is going a lot. There's quite a high demand most days. And then I throw in some magnesium glycinate sometimes. The Aptamag Neuro does have a little bit of both. It's heavier in the magnesium threonate, but it does have some magnesium glycinate and malate in there too. So sometimes a blend can be really great too. So, other things to consider are getting tested for any nutrient deficiencies. So if you're eating a good diet, but yet you're not really sure if I'm getting enough protein, or am I getting enough magnesium, or am I getting enough zinc? You can use apps like Chronometer, and you can enter in all your food for a couple of days and just get a baseline of what nutrients am I getting, where are the holes in my diet, and then what are some foods I can use to fill in. A great place to start is going to be some grass-fed meats, some green vegetables, and lots of colors. If you eat the colors of the rainbow in your diet and have a lot of diversity, you're probably going to be doing really well. One thing we'll touch on in a little bit is, for some, you're eating all the right foods, you're eating the diversity and the colors and the greens, but maybe your digestion's off and you're eating it, but you're not absorbing it. For many, it's an absorption problem. And now I have nutrient deficiencies, but yet I look good on paper. That's where sometimes testing can come into play. Certain symptoms of that can come into play and tell us you might have a hard time digesting. One of which is I get bloated after I eat. If you're someone that eats protein or eats a meal, you get bloated within an hour, we've got a digestive problem. And now you might not be absorbing the nutrients out of your food that you need, and that can lead to some nutrient deficiencies. So we'll dive into that a little bit more in a few slides when we talk about the gut and its role in that. So, all right, what is your one thing that you can write down and add to your sleep plan if you need to in this realm of nutrient deficiencies? Take just a moment to write something down. All right. Great. Moving into our stress and cortisol regulation. This is where our stress and nerve system regulation come in. And signs of high cortisol at night are someone who might feel wired but tired. I feel tired bodily, but yet my mind is just racing with thoughts of what happened today? What's going on tomorrow? Oh, I forgot to sign the kids up for this day camp. And the mind just keeps going. And maybe you have a hard time falling asleep because of that, or you wake up in the middle of the night, and then that's where your mind goes. Now, with cortisol shuts down melatonin. So anytime cortisol is activated, anytime that your adrenals are pushing that out, it'll be a hard falling asleep, staying asleep, and getting good quality of sleep. So cortisol is often at the root of most sleep issues. Cortisol can come from, blood sugar dysregulation creates cortisol spikes. Dehydration creates cortisol spikes. Nutrient deficiency. A lot of our root causes because they can create those cortisol spikes that then lead to poor sleep. So now understanding our cortisol relationship can help us kind of get a hold and get a handle on all of that. So we're going to be forming our sleep plan soon. But some more ideas I want you to pick from to bring into your sleep plan around cortisol regulation and nourishing your nerve system. Let's start with journaling. One of my favorites is having a worry journal. So if you're someone who is wired but tired, and I can't fall asleep, or I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't get back to sleep, as you pull out your pad of paper and your pen and you just start writing. And ideally, my rule of thumb for the clients I work with is if you're in bed longer than 20 minutes and you can't fall asleep, get out of bed and go somewhere in your house or where you are. Ideally, we keep the lights low. If you have to turn on a light, maybe it's a low lamp, a salt lamp. We don't want bright light. We want really dim light because bright light's going to wake you up. But keep the lights low, grab your pad of paper, and just start writing. What's on your mind? What are all the things that you're thinking about, you're worrying about, you're anxious about? And just go and just brain dump it all out, because it's better getting it out than keeping it in. This will keep you from getting into that fight or flight state and can help shift you into that parasympathetic rest and digest state. When you're all done, you leave the pad of paper there. You don't bring it back into the bedroom with you. You leave that there. So in the morning, you can come back to it and decide, do I need to tackle any of this? Do I need to look at this? Or did I just need to get it out? During this time, I love listening to calming music. So one of my favorites is called Solfeggio Frequency 528. I have a Spotify account and I have a playlist of Solfeggio 528 frequencies. Research has shown that this frequency of music, it sounds very spa-like, will actually shift your nerve system out of a fight or flight state and into that rest and digest state just by listening to it. It's pretty cool. I love it. I think it sounds amazing, and it's super easy to incorporate. While you're maybe listening to your solfeggio, incorporating some deep breathing. You've probably heard of this tool. It's not new, but many of us maybe don't utilize it. One fun thing about deep breathing is you physiologically cannot be in a state of stress and high cortisol when you're deep breathing. If your exhale is longer than your inhale, consistently, your brain has no choice but to follow you. When we're breathing shallow, when we're breathing fast, the brain's getting the message, there must be danger around. Let's spike our cortisol. Let's get our adrenaline up in case this danger is coming so I can be prepared. But when our exhale is long, then our brain gets the message of, oh, I'm safe. There is no danger around me. We can start to calm down. We can start to rest. And if I need to, I can start to digest my food. Another fun thing is bird song. There has been research done that listening to bird song and birds singing outside is another thing to listen to with the solfeggio frequencies that can shift you into a parasympathetic mode. And the idea around this is that when birds are singing, there's no predator nearby. So when birds are singing, that means they're calm. That can tell our brain that, oh, they're calm, so I can be calm. So kind of neat. Some other ideas, drinking warm tea. Now, we don't want this maybe too close to bed because we don't want you waking up at night to go to the bathroom, but some good teas are lemon balm. Lemon balm is very nourishing for the nerve system and our stress response. Chamomile can be really great. Sleepy time teas can be really great. But with teas, one ingredient to avoid is licorice root. Licorice root, unfortunately, is stuck in a few teas, and it tastes kind of like an anise, black licorice type of flavor to it. And licorice root will extend the half-life of cortisol, which means it will make cortisol stay in your system longer. So if your cortisol's been high, it's going to stay high longer because of licorice root. So if you're looking at teas or any supplements, unless you have testing or you know you need that support, I recommend you shy away from anything with licorice root in it. So other ideas are creating just a calm space, time for prayer and meditation, gratitude journaling, and writing. What are 3 things I'm grateful for today? In my morning routine, I often go through, and as I'm getting ready, I think of this is going to sound silly, but all the body parts that I'm thankful for. I am thankful for my legs and my feet that I'm standing on right now. As I'm fixing my hair and blow drying my hair, I'm really thankful I have hands to hold this hair dryer and things like that. So a gratitude journal of all the things that are going right, because we're really quick oftentimes to focus on what's not going right and worry. And we can start to train our brain to go, but look at all the things that are going well. And they can be super, super simple. So for gratitude journaling, one thing, I have a sticky note by my bed that has 3 words on it: someone, something, and myself. And those can be cues to gratitude journaling. So what are 3 things I'm thankful for? 1 thing for someone, 1 thing for something, and 1 thing for myself. Just a cue to help me think outside the box when it comes to thinking of things I'm grateful for. So, and then the last thing is that magnesium. And magnesium glycinate calms the muscles, and magnesium threonate calms the mind. So, all right. So what is your 1 thing that you're going to pick? That was quite a lot of things that I gave you, but what's 1 thing you want to pick to add to your sleep plan? And if you want to share it in the chat, please do. I would love to see what you picked. Magnesium, yes. I love magnesium. It's so great. A worry journal, I do that when I have a hard time and my brain is just going. I just get out of bed. I try to stay warm so I don't get too awake. And I just write it all down and get it out of my head. So it helps a lot. So. All right, more deep breathing. Yes, you can do that in bed. You can get out of bed to do it, but try not to be in bed for more than 20 minutes. Chances are pretty good if you are, you're going to just keep getting frustrated, which then makes it much harder to sleep. So, all right. So speaking of deep breathing, one of our deep breathing exercises for this webinar is a 4-7-8 breathing. So feel free to do this right now. What a 4-7-8 is, you take a breath in for 4 counts, you hold it for 7 counts, and then you exhale it for 8 counts. So we want to take a pretty big breath because a count to 7 is kind of long, and then a nice slow exhale. So let's go ahead and do that. Breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and then out for 8. Good. Excellent. I always feel my shoulders just start to come down when I do breathing exercises. So then I know it's working. My cortisol is going down. My shoulders go with it. You want to breathe ideally through your nose and out through your nose. Most of the time, if we keep it in our nose, both breath in and breath out, that's where we're going to help lower the cortisol. So now, if you're having a hard time breathing through your nose, breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. So if you're congested, you have a cold, please still try the inhale through your nose, but the exhale then can be through your mouth. But if you have an easy time breathing, it's in and out through both the nose. So. All right, let's do a little brain break. So I've got two what we call neuro tools. I've been diving into some really fun things called neurosomatic intelligence. And these are extra tools you can bring to your toolbox that help decrease your cortisol and put you into that parasympathetic rest and digest state of the nerve system that we need to be in to be able to sleep. So our first one is we're going to check our range of motion of any body part. You can use your neck and you can turn and just take note of what side's tighter, what side's more restricted. You can go side to side. A fun thing about what I've noticed about myself, I've been doing this for about a month, is that I am always more restricted to my left than my right. You can use your arm and you can bring your arm down to see how far does it hinge, whatever body part you want to use. Just take a little mental note of what feels restricted. Now, the first exercise, we're going to do two. The first one is we're going to use our ears. So we have these little pieces here called your tragus. I'm going to ask you to take them, one in each ear, and we're going to take a hold of them, and we're going to slightly gently pull it away from your head. So I'm pulling out. And then as you're pulling out, we're turning it forward. So I'm twisting really gently. Don't hurt yourself. Just twisting forward. This is going to help us activate the vagus nerve in the back. So we're pulling out, we're twisting forward. And now if we can add a hum to vibrate the back of our throat, we can further stimulate that vagus nerve. So I kind of lose my grip a little bit, so I have to re-grip, pull out, and awesome. So that is one tool. If you want to recheck your range of motion, that one is one of my favorites. I always get a greater range of motion to my left when I do it. That means my brain was really happy with that. My nerve system calmed down, and that led to that greater range of motion. Our next one is going to be dealing with our visual field and our eyes. So I'm going to take off my glasses for this one. And for this one, we are going to cover our eyes. I often pull up my sleeves so I can get a better coverage. And what we're going to do is we're going to cover your eyes. So I'm going to do it right now. You can watch and then do it with me. I'm going to cover my eyes so there is absolutely no light anywhere that I can see. But obviously, I still want to be able to breathe through my nose. So I have no light, and my eyes are open. And as my eyes are open, all I see is black. And as I see black, I see kind of little flashes of light and things like that. And I'm going to keep my eyes open and keep my eyes covered until those flashes of light go away. And all I see is black. Once I get to that point, I uncover my eyes, take a deep breath in, and a breath out when you're ready. And then just recheck that range of motion. If that works well for you, again, you're going to see that increased range of motion. My nerve system loves this one, especially if I've had time in front of a screen. So I do this one every day, especially after I have had days working virtually in front of my computer. So for anyone who works in front of a computer, lots of blue light coming at them, this can be really, really helpful to do throughout the day. Maybe you can take little nerve system breaks and just cover your eyes and give your visual system a little bit of a break. Let it help your cortisol come down. And then at night, before you're going to bed, you can also put this and insert this right in. Now, if you did this and you noticed an opposite response, maybe your range of motion got worse, you got tighter, and it didn't feel good for you, then one option is it might have been a little too much. So now you can still try it, but you just cover your eyes for a little less time. And then we can slowly train your nerve system that this is a safe thing, not a dangerous thing to do. So, all right. Very good. Now that our nervous system's feeling all calm, let's talk about hormones. Hormonal imbalance can lead to issues with sleep. And perimenopause and the transition to menopause is kind of a common time where this is really going to come up, but it can happen at any age and at any time. And the hormone that is most helpful for sleep is progesterone. Progesterone is a very calming hormone, and when progesterone's nice and high, we often are able to feel more calm and get better sleep. One of the characteristic signs in perimenopause is night sweats, anxiety, and restless sleep. And this is often due to the fast drops of estrogen, while progesterone is slowly declining because of just age. Progesterone starts its decline often around 35 years of age. So some ways that we can help these hormones and support them is to reduce caffeine intake or eliminate it if you can. Eating foods that support progesterone levels, supplements like Chaste Tree Vitex can be really helpful, but again, consult your healthcare provider before you start any hormonally based supplements. And focusing again on reducing that stress and supporting your nervous system. The tools that we're sharing, all the tips up before now, the tips from last week's webinar, all of them are going to help support hormonal balance and will help with this one. We're going to dive into perimenopause in a few weeks on February 21st. So if this is hitting home for you, please come back to that, and we're going to dive into these in much greater depth. So some other ideas for you that can help with hormonal balance is temperature and room temperature. Having a cool room at night can really help balance hormones and get better sleep. Taking a cold shower sounds counterintuitive, but it actually can stimulate that parasympathetic system as we breathe through that shower. When it's cool, we want to use our deep breathing and calm ourselves down and teach our body that I'm all good and this is all good. And that cooling response can help stimulate that parasympathetic system. If not a cold shower, what about just when you're washing your face, what about just using some cold water? And that can help. They now have cooling sheets. They have cooling pillows. They have something really cool out there called 8 Sleep, or another one is called Chili Pad. And this is a sheet you put over your bed that has some AI to it, and it can read your body temperature, and it can cool the sheet down to cool your internal body temperature down. And that can help you sleep as your hormones are fluctuating. When progesterone's rising, we often run a little hotter. Progesterone makes us hot. If estrogen's dropping quickly, like it can in perimenopause, that also makes us hot. So those fluctuations, or that higher progesterone time, the week before your period, can leave you feeling really hot. So sometimes having that cooling support can really help. All right. And gut health. So we're going to dive deep into gut health in a couple weeks, but gut health plays a crucial role in sleep quality and duration. Poor gut health can disrupt serotonin production. About 85% of our serotonin is made in our gut and then sent up to our brain. And serotonin is a key precursor to melatonin. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that helps regulate our sleep and our wake cycles. So we really need that good gut health to produce the serotonin to help us get that good quality and duration of sleep. Poor gut health can also lead to those nutrient deficiencies that we talked about earlier, that iron, the magnesium, the B12. If we're putting it in, but our gut is too inflamed and we're not absorbing it, then we got to work at that level. So for good gut health, some ideas can be fiber-rich foods, vegetables, fruits, fiber powders if you need that extra boost. We're aiming for a minimum of 35 grams of fiber per day. To give you an estimate, I highly recommend you track your food for 3 days on an app, Carb Manager, Chronometer. There's a lot of really great ones out there. And get an idea of how much fiber are you actually getting in your day. Because sometimes we're surprised where we think we're doing good, and then we look at it and we're like, oh my gosh, I got 12 grams of fiber in today. And I thought I was eating a lot. We're aiming for that 35 grams of fiber. On average, 35 grams of fiber is about 9 cups of vegetables. So that's 3 cups of vegetables per meal. that we need to get to that 35-gram average. Now, obviously that depends on what vegetables you're putting in there, but at least 1 cup is green, another cup is cruciferous, and then the third cup are all the other colors, your blues, your whites, your browns, your yellows, your oranges, your reds. And if we follow that 3 by 3 by 3, chances are you're really going to be doing well at bumping up to that 35 grams. Now, if you're not anywhere close to that, if you're not someone who eats a lot of vegetables, start slow. If we dump a lot of fiber into your diet, really quickly, you're going to get very bloated, as our stomach often isn't used to digesting that amount of fiber. So add just an extra amount of fiber to your meal and just see, where can I put in a little bit of extra fiber and what's it going to be? And then can I get different varieties and diversities of them? Incorporating fermented foods like sauerkraut and kimchi are really, really great. Now, the fiber is the food for the probiotics that come from fermented foods. So it's kind of a win-win. Taking a quality probiotic is really good. I get a lot of people who will ask, well, can I just take a probiotic? You can, but we often need the fiber for the probiotic to eat. So we still got to get that fiber in there. And we're going to get a much greater diversity of probiotics by eating the fermented foods. So ideally, you're getting in a tablespoon of fermented foods per day or a little bit more. So we'll dive deeper into that in a couple of weeks. But please write down for your sleep plan, what is one way that you can support your gut health for better sleep? All right. Anyone wants to chat, please, or enter anything in the chat, please do. Otherwise, thumbs up when you are ready to move on. Eat more vegetables. Yes. I'm constantly trying to eat more vegetables. It's a little hard sometimes. More fiber. Yes. I do use a fiber, a protein fiber. Wow. A powdered protein fiber. Quite often throughout the day. It's really hard to get 35 grams in the wintertime, especially. So in the wintertime, I'm often getting in an extra shake. I get in some fiber. I put in chia seeds or basil seeds are a great way to add some fiber. I put in some veggies into my shake. So shakes can be a really great way to add that extra and get that boost of fiber up there really quickly, and often can be a little bit easier to digest too. But tracking your fiber is really, really helpful. It can be very eye-opening sometimes where you might find yourself to be. So, all right, our last one is movement. For some of us, we're just not burning off enough physical energy. If anyone on the call has young kids, you might know of a time where you had a busy day outside, maybe they were playing, running around, swimming, and then someone says, boy, they're gonna sleep well tonight. And then they do, they sleep amazing. And the same thing goes for us. Sometimes we're just not physically exerting and getting rid of enough energy, and then it's hard to sleep at night. We're not really meant to get up, go to a desk job and sit, and then come home, make dinner, and then sit, and then go to bed. We're really meant to be physically active and moving throughout the day. So sometimes some options for this can be a HIIT workout, a high intensity interval training. This can be really helpful to get a quick burst of energy out, really great for metabolism, for cardiovascular health. On average, a HIIT workout's 10 minutes or less. Now, these can be really great for women who are trying to balance hormones. I do recommend that this is in the first half of your cycle. When we're in a high intensity state, cortisol's up and progesterone's down. If we're doing that the week before our cycle, sometimes that can impact that progesterone and throw your cycles off. So if you experiment with this and notice this, just shift it to the beginning of your cycle. And once you ovulate, you can give it a few more days, and now we shift gears into a different form of exercise. Planning your day and scheduling movement breaks in. It can be super simple if you work from home or you're a stay-at-home mom. Can I squat to pick up toys? Can I squat to put dishes into the dishwasher? Those movements can really, really add up throughout the day and help our biggest muscle groups really burn off some of that energy. So Take a moment to write down what is one way you can get a little more movement into your day. All right, we are going to be taking what you've been writing down, and now we're going to get to work formulating our sleep plan. We're going to take some of those and really try to make something that's customized to you and what works for you. And in this slide, I have an airplane that's landing on our runway. And this picture represents the way we're going to treat our sleep plan. When you're in an airplane, if you've ever noticed, they kind of tell you when you're beginning their descent. And the descent that the pilot's doing in the airplane is far out from time and distance. So on average, they're 45 minutes from the runway, and they're already planning how to strategically drop in altitude slowly until they meet the runway. So they've got to plan and they've got to prepare. It would be the worst flight in the world if you're flying around and all of a sudden they see the runway and go, oh, look, it's right there. And they drop down and try to land. That would be terrible. So the same thing goes for us in our sleep. If we're running around all night and we're loading the dishwasher and we're cleaning up and then we put on our jammies and go to bed. We're running around and then we drop down into bed and expect to fall asleep, and yet we can't. And we wonder why. We want to try to give our brain time to plan and prepare, to let it know we need to go down in increments as we get ready to land into bed at night. So our slow descent starts by planning and preparing with our morning. Believe it or not, a good time of sleep, a good nighttime sleep starts with our morning, not our evening. Light plays a huge role in melatonin production, and natural light exposure before 10 a.m. can set that circadian rhythm into place and tell your brain, up, sun's up, I'm up. In this amount of time, I'm going to start taking in cues to see if I need to start making melatonin. So that sunlight coming up tells my brain to get ready, plan and prepare for the evening. Some other ideas for your morning are to ideally avoid rushing. Keep that cortisol down for just a little bit. You can plan a calm morning routine, and this can be 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever you've got. You can make some sort of calm morning routine to fit for your schedule. Take a few deep breaths, some light stretching, journaling. I love gratitude journaling in the morning. It just helps set my day. My morning routine is very, very important to me. It sets the tone for my entire day. My poor husband, if he wakes up early and I'm up early, I don't talk to him. And I even actually make him go into a separate room sometimes, because that is my time for me, of which I'm pouring into my heart, my spirit, my soul, and it really rejuvenates me and gets me ready for the day. So I encourage you to set some sort of morning routine into play. Something to add would be your water with electrolytes again, and focusing on blood sugar. This is where that savory breakfast, we talked about dinner, but let's add it for breakfast. Abandon what we think of breakfast foods and prioritize the healthy fats, the protein, and the fiber. So my kids, one of my daughters eats hamburger a lot for breakfast because she really gets grounded when she eats protein. So we just abandon the carby, sugar-laden breakfast foods and go for leftovers, and it works really well. All right, getting some movement in throughout your day, and then we get to our evening wind down routine. Light, again, I can't stress the power of light enough. At this time of year, as it's winter, the sun goes down before we're ready to go down. So how can we mimic the sunset in our house? About 2 hours, maybe even 3 hours before bed, turn off the bright overhead fluorescent lights and turn on the lamps. If you have salt lamps, they even have red light bulbs that you can put in your lamps to change the hue of the light. We want to mimic that sunlight. So our eyes tell our brain that we're trying to come down, and we're trying to bring melatonin up. When light goes down, melatonin comes up. Avoiding screens and blue light emitting devices after sunlight. That blue light really sets off our cortisol, and it tells us to wake up. So when there's a lot of light coming in our eyes that isn't a red hue, again, our cortisol is likely to come up, but our melatonin will be down. So taking the phones and putting them away, plugging them in at least an hour before bed, maybe longer, turning off the TV, turning off the iPads and the tablets, and just having that wind down time. If you've ever been around young kids, they do really well on a routine and a consistent schedule. Maybe I brush my teeth, I read my books, and I go to bed. Adults are the same way. We want to get that routine in that feels calming as we're trying to land that plane. All right, if you still can't sleep, again, pull out that sleep journal and you can dump your thoughts in there, but you can also notice patterns and write down, what was your sleep like? Because it's really hard to remember. And now you might notice, oh, you know what? I actually had a glass of wine that day. For some, alcohol really upsets our sleep. Or I had extra coffee that day. When you write down what your sleep was like, you might start to figure out a pattern for yourself of what might be disrupting your sleep. So you can incorporate the nervous system exercises. You can use wearable devices to track your sleep. And some of my favorite sleep supplements I have added here. And they're kind of in the order that I often use them. HPA, nighttime HPA is one for the adrenal glands, and it helps lower our cortisol. So that one is really, really nice. They have a daytime blend and a nighttime blend. Cortisol Manager is another supplement that I use that has something called phosphatidylserine in it. And phosphatidylserine has been proven to lower our cortisol response. This is especially helpful if you're really stressed at night or if you're a shift worker and you have to sleep at odd times of day. Magnesium threonate or glycinate is often really good. And then if you're needing something a bit heavier that has some melatonin in it as well, I really love Insomnitol. Insomnitol is a blend that has some magnesium, but it also has some adaptogens for adrenal health. So it's going after let me help you get to sleep, but also I'm going to calm that stress response down. So those are some of my favorites. All right. To wrap us up, I just want to share a story that one of my clients, Katie, and Katie was a really busy working mom, a lot on her plate. And because of that, she was feeling really drained and struggling with her sleep. She was waking up at 2 a.m., relying on coffee to get her going and melatonin to help her sleep. And she just felt like her body was working against her. She was trying melatonin, she cut out caffeine, she was doing all the things that seemed to be that she'd heard of, that a lot of the things we covered today, actually. But yet it just wasn't working. And so when we met, we discovered through her health history, some of the holes that we needed to patch and work on. And through a personalized approach, we focused on balancing her blood sugar, restoring some nutrient deficiencies. We really worked hard on gut health so she could absorb better, some stress management, and really working on some natural light. And after that, she started it was just a transformation for her. She started sleeping much better without any help. She had more energy, fewer food cravings for carbs and sugar. She woke up really good. And then she actually ended up losing 10 pounds. That wasn't even her goal, but yeah, at some point she just wanted to get some sleep. But we all know when we're tired, we don't exactly tend to eat well. We tend to grab the things that are quick and often sugar and carb laden. And she found herself eating better because she was sleeping better. So my key takeaway from Katie's story is to show you that you also can experience these benefits by just doing and following some of the tips that we've shared today. So next steps. For those of you that are hearing this and you're like, I've tried that, or I don't know if that's enough for me, then I encourage you to schedule your free 30-minute health solutions call. That way we can sit down, we can talk together virtually and decide, how can I help support you? And are we a good fit to work together? If that's not something you're ready for, please take your sleep plan and that you have written down and start at the top and just work through it. Start with tonight even, and what can I do to shift my night to night to lead to better sleep? And always remember, focus on your nervous system first. It's the part almost everyone leaves out, but it is the most efficient and needle moving thing to do. So, all right. Any questions? We've got a lot of information. I know we're going a little bit over on time. I answered some questions. Are there any extra questions at this time? Oh, Alicia has popped the link into the chat if you are interested in setting up a Health Solutions call. If you don't have questions, I would love to know, what is one thing you took away from today's webinar? What's one thing you're going to implement, or one thing you learned? You can tell me or you can type it.
I have more than one thing.
Yes.
I've already written out my sleep plan.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So a big one is I do a shake every morning, and I'm gonna add chia seeds. And sometimes I put greens in there, sometimes I don't.
Uh-huh.
I do a gratitude journal every day, but I want to do my worry journal.
Yep.
And then taking magnesium, big time.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. How do you do with light? Do you feel you have anything to incorporate there? Or do you feel
I should. I have blocked blue light after sunlight. I have prescription glasses, but I've gotten some with the blocking blue light because I work at a desk all day as well. So I have those,
Yes.
but I don't necessarily do that at night. Oh, I have them on at night when I'm looking at my phone, but
Yeah.
I use my phone up until I write before I go to bed.
Yeah.
And so I shouldn't do that. I'm gonna try and work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I
is
could work on it too.
Yeah. Many of us do that, and it's such a hard habit. But start with, if it feels really hard, start with 15 minutes of no
Mhm.
phone time before you go to bed. And when that's going well, now I do 30 minutes. And you might notice, like, I kind of love this. This is really, it just feels really good.
Yeah.
And that might be a really big shift. So
Yeah, I know that's something I could work on too, because I tend to look at my phone while I'm in bed, and I know that can't be helpful. So
yeah. It's really helpful if you have to look at it to have that red light hue. Some phones have an app that can do it. But if we're scrolling social media, the speed of which things happen really creates a lot of visual stimulation that often brings our cortisol up. And so it's not just the light, but it's how fast things move on social media that also can create a lot of stress to the nervous system. So.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And we will wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know how precious your time is, and I really honor that you took time out of your day to join me. So if a call with me is fit for you, or if you're ready, please click the link in the chat and then join us next week. Next week, we're going to talk about energy and how you can break that cycle of always feeling tired. You can have sustained energy with sometimes just a few really simple changes to your day, so you can get your spark back. So thanks again for joining me today, and I hope I see you all again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.